Hello, everyone. My name is Liana Ruppert. I am a senior associate editor at Game Informer. And welcome to the final talk of Women in Games. I am so excited that you guys are joining us. I am joined by the amazing JJ, who is the CEO of Prolibus of America and the studio that is most known for Black Desert Online, but they've got a couple of new games in the works too. And we're going to be talking about some things that are really important to us of connectivity in the industry and kind of the behind the scenes of what it's like and persevering and some of the struggles and just kicking all the butt. Thank you so much for joining me, JJ. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thanks for inviting me. And hi, Liana, and hi, everyone who is listening to me right now. And I'm JJ. As Liana introduced me, I'm the CEO of Prolibus America, and I'm taking care of the North American business for Prolibus, which is our parent company here. And I'm really glad and very excited to share my story here with you, Liana, and all the audience today, and especially at the one of my favorite game conferences, which is Women in Games conference. I'm very excited today.
It's great. I'm excited for people to learn more about your journey because Prolibus is such a big company. Have such a loyal community, and you just had such an amazing journey to be where you are today. You moved from South Korea. I would love to learn more just about your background.
Mhm. All right, just briefly, speaking of me, before I going into the person JJ, so I'm here at Prolibus America. As we just now talked on, Prolibus is the developer of the MMORPG franchise Black Desert, and beside the Black Desert, we're also working on very ambitious new titles, including DokeV and Crimson Desert and Planet that I'm really excited about. So my team here not only works on Black Desert title for all the across the platforms right now, we are also helping the headquarters to bring all these new titles into the world. So this is a very exciting time for me, in terms of my work. But assuming that most of you guys actually don't know me in person very well, I like to just introduce myself, as a person outside of work a little bit more. So I am from South Korea. I was born and raised in South Korea. I studied there. I worked there for 6 years after school before I moved to the States. And I came to the States for my MBA first. So probably the initial plan, I even don't remember if I had the specific plan what I wanted to do here, but probably the initial thought was just to stay in the States for 2 years at school and go back to Korea. But after living in California for 2 years, for many reasons, I just completely changed my plan and decided not to go back to Korea. So since then, I've been living in the States for the last 13, 14 years. And also, since then, I've been in the video game industry, just working on a lot of different things, usually game publishing, but also biz dev and partnerships and corp dev, M&As, investments, and also general management now. So that's just briefly how I am here. I ended up, working in the States, working in a video game company. But if you don't mind, I just want to talk a little bit about my career path too. So I actually didn't start my first job at a video game company. It was a market research consulting firm. So I worked there for almost 4 years before I moved to my first video game company. And that was actually very early 2000. And in Korea, I actually know. So when I was in college, I never actually thought about working in a video game company as my career.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was probably not because I was not interested in games at all. I was a big gamer. I just loved the games. I just played so many games when I was in college, but it was not really a popular job, especially for women, especially for those who are not really engineering major. And it was until when I actually graduated, when actually the very first generation of Korean video game companies were born. They were born in mid to late 90s. So I really just didn't think about just having a career in a video game industry very seriously until actually I really got into those opportunities. So after working for 4 years as a consultant, actually one of my clients was one of the very first internet service and video game companies in Korea, and they just offered me like, why don't you just work with us? We were setting up some new game strategy team, and I was like, that sounds really cool, and I'm a big gamer. I love games, and how cool is that, right? So I think it was a very natural move. So I started working in a video game company, and then, after I moved to the States, of course, it was just very natural for me just to, get a job in, another video game company here. And yeah, I always just loved, what I did, and just hanging out with all these, cool people, just working on games, whether they're just a game developer or just working on sales, marketing, and PR. I just had a lot of fun through my career.
That's what it's about. You've got to love what you're doing. That passion comes out. I've got to ask though, because not only did you pivot into a different industry completely, because gaming industry is its own world. We have our own microcosm. We're a weird bunch. But not only that, but you also moved halfway across the world. Like what was that experience like for you? And were there any unique challenges, especially coming from South Korea, that you were just like, I got to get past this to get where you are right now?
Yeah, I think it was definitely quite a journey. And I think there were a lot of challenges. Even though I really didn't think all those were challenges, I think my personality is like, just not take it easy. Just I'm very optimistic about my future. So I really just wanted to do a lot of things. My one of my life philosophy was always like, I wanted to live my life like I journey through it. I actually wanted to live in all different countries, different cities, and just like, just like I journey. I loved, meeting new people. I loved having new experiences. So it was a perfect decision when I actually really wanted to go outside the country and do something. But it was not the same for people around me. And also, I really didn't try that until I was already in my 30s. So when actually I told my mom that, hey, actually I got in, Stanford for my MBA, I'm gonna just go to the States and do, my MBA course. And actually the first reaction she had was like, oh, you're already in your 30s. When are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get, into, that stage of your life? Actually, you were just like a child. And I was like, I was really, I love my mom. I respect her. She's really just one of the best people I know in the world. But it was just not very natural for her to worry about, her daughter for just not pursuing her career. She was thinking like, oh my God, my daughter actually should get married to a good guy and have a good family. Maybe that's actually what she pictured whenever she was thinking about me. But, I was not even thinking about it. I was like, I was so excited just to go to another country to do my MBA and pursue another career opportunity. So I still remember I told her, hey mom, actually I'm a little disappointed. Just what if actually I was a son? Would you say the same thing to your son when your son said, hey mom, actually I got in this good school for my MBA, and probably you just genuinely congratulate and you're so proud of your son, right? And she was like, I got you, and but I still concerned about your future because blah blah blah. So I think all those are not really something only had to experience. I think usually girls when they grow up and women in business, I think they are expected to do things a little differently or expected to dream for something else outside the career. So I think probably, those were some of the challenges I always just not had to overcome. But yeah, that's actually one thing actually I still remember. I still now actually I make a joke with my mom. Hey mom, actually you just said this to me when I told you actually I was gonna go for an MBA in the States, and she's like, did I? I don't remember, but I think that was more very common experience. Any girl born and raised in South Korea would have as a reaction for their you know academic achievement or any business achievement. Usually, of course, they get a lot of good positive comments, but also I think you also have to constantly face concerns, like unnecessary concerns, like people talk about your you know marriage or just other stuff that you also have to take care of, they think. So yeah, those
You
are
can you
those are things.
you kind of said something earlier about there's that expectation. And I've noticed even through my career and seeing colleagues, there are certain expectations that seem to be there for women versus men that we kind of have to push back a bit against because it's such a
Mm,
blanketed, whether how we're supposed to act or how we're supposed to respond.
mm,
I've run into that myself. Are there any other kind of expectations beyond moving from South Korea? But were there any kind of other,
mm,
especially in your role, because your career has been incredible, and you are
mm,
in such an esteemed position that takes a lot of hard work to get to. And I know a lot of times it's possible to get some pushback for people that may be not expecting to see that. Was that anything that you kind of had to deal with throughout your career?
mm. Yeah, I think there are a couple of things actually I can talk about regarding that. I think first thing, anyways, when I first entered the game industry, everything was fun. As I said, how cool is that? When I was working as a consultant, I was wearing a business suit all the time, and the atmosphere was a little, different, and everybody just talks about their favorite games, and we're always playing games and just not talking about what we want to see in our games that we're making. So I really liked that atmosphere. I really liked people and working with them in this industry. But as the time passed year by year, I felt actually there were things actually that are happening to me constantly that were bothering me a little bit. Not too much, but one thing, the first thing actually that comes to my mind is I think I probably had to constantly prove that I'm also an eligible human being who is a good fit for the game industry, because often even in the first business meeting with just no random person from another company, I get these questions like, by the way, do you also play games, or are you a gamer? Or sometimes people even told me like, but you don't play games, do you? I know
Yeah.
maybe I just didn't fit into a very, typical gamers image. Like, so there are kind of stereotypes of, gamers. And I know actually we used to see more male gamers than female. So maybe it's combination of both. Like, I did MBA, and, people just didn't really see me as like, hardcore gamer. But actually I really loved, games, and I really just liked what I was doing. But whenever actually I had this conversation, I think sometimes it really just kept me thinking whether I was a good fit, or I deserve the title I have, or I was the right person to have these conversations. So I think it kind of just bothered me a little bit this way. Sometimes I really didn't want to care about those comments, those questions, but I think it really just became something I had to just keep going through, just keep asking myself, am I doing right? Or yeah, maybe I'm not really just yeah, good at this, or yeah, maybe I really just gonna have to try harder so that I really just gonna prove myself better. So I think there was kind of constant pressure, both from outside and both from myself, that I really have to prove harder that I'm also really eligible for this industry. I'm a gamer and I love what I
Yeah.
do. So maybe, it's not something every woman goes through, but I'm pretty sure a lot of women, in this industry kind of, can connect to what I say. And if you don't
Yes.
mind, just one more thing,
Mhm.
I also have these. This is hard to explain, but I always think actually I was really just born natural with social skills. I always loved just making friends, and I I think Ishan, I'm proudly saying this. I have this, connection or relationship building skill that I also can use for my business, my management, and my leadership. And I really appreciate that I have that skill set. But when I was, even like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I heard other people say, "Oh, JJ, actually, you have a great social skill," or "Hey, actually, you're good at building relationships." I actually didn't like hearing that because somewhat it kind of felt like they were associating it with the fact that I'm a woman. Like, hey, actually, you're supposed to be good at this. But I was all whenever I heard that, I was always thinking, but there are so many other things I'm good at. Why don't you guys see it first? Why don't you guys just talk about my social skills or so-called soft skills? So I just didn't like it, but I think it's kind of double-edged sword for women, not in game business, but in business in general, women in business. I think it's the fact. I think there are a lot of surveys and a lot of literatures saying women on average have higher EQ. I mean, which is like a relationship building skills, or just a high empathy, higher understanding ability for others, and they're better at connecting, relationships and building relationships than men. I mean, on average. I'm not saying every woman is good at
Yeah.
that, and I'm not saying men are not good at that. So it's a fact. I think a lot of surveys and literature that say that. And the thing is, I think when any woman gets a compliment like, "Oh, actually, you are good at this," I think sometimes that becomes just double-sided sword. Sometimes even women don't want to hear that because that just naturally associate, the fact they're woman, and it sounds like as if they're only good at that, even when actually they have so many
Yeah.
other traits, other skill sets they want to, you know, um, show off. I think sometimes naturally that skill set gets more highlights. But I think, when I'm thinking about this, there was one moment that kind of really just turned my perspective differently. So this is one of the conversations I had with one of my coworkers before, and he also said this to me like, "Hey JJ, I think you have this supernatural power that you make people very ease, and you can make friends with even people you just meet in the first business meeting. I'm so jealous that you have that ability." And of course, at first I was like, I have all the other skill sets. I can do the business analysis. I can do the marketing. I can do finance. And you're just complimenting me on that. And he was like, no, no, no. But I really mean it. I really think it's kind of rare skill set. I really wish I had that skill so that I can manage my team better. And then I started thinking,
Mhm.
yeah, this is actually really good skill set to have. And I really, yeah. And after that, I really just wanted to, tell myself that having that skill set, like, connection building or relationship building skill set or higher EQ, whatever you call it, the skill set that is associated with being a woman still is your strength, so be proud of it. You just try to utilize it in the best way possible. Just don't be shy about just using that skill set because it's a very important skill set, and in the modern
Yes.
society I believe it's getting more and more important. And if if you're a woman, but if you actually feel that you actually didn't, you were born without that trait, like, because some women also tell me like, hey, but I'm a woman, but actually I'm not really good at building relationships. I'm very shy. Actually, I'm not really social either. I'm like, don't worry. What I'm saying is, if you have the skill set, whether you're a woman or not, just be proud of it. Just use it. It's your strength. That's it. If you don't have it, whether you're a woman or not, just don't be afraid of just talking about other strengths. And it's not something you lack of, because all the other male coworkers, they don't even think about it, even when they
They
don't have
don't
the skill
know.
set. Yeah. So don't think about it at all. If you have it, be proud of it, use it. If you don't have it, I'm pretty sure you have all the other skills that actually you can use for your work to succeed. So,
I,
yeah, those are the things that
yeah.
I had to, go through.
I love that's one thing that I love about especially what Women in Games is doing, because it's not about excluding anyone. It's about providing networks for women, because this, and it's not the only industry that is very male dominated, but this industry is very front facing male for a long time, and that is changing in a good way, and it's nice. But more than that, I think it's nice too, because it gives a public spotlight for the industry of, there are, just like there's different types of men with different personality traits, different strengths, different weaknesses, just the same as the women. It's so funny because I have a military background, and my coworkers always joke of, oh, Leanna's going into Marine mode, because I'm like, we need this and this and this and this, and they act like it's such a shock, but I'm like, no, that's always been my personality. And
Yeah,
but just because you have that doesn't mean you're only limited to that. I can also be soft, and you and your,
exactly.
as a person, as a CEO, as a daughter, as a wife, as a whatever, we have all these facets to us. And it's really about connecting to other people in this industry and connecting to other humans to explore those parts of ourselves that we're either taught to bury or we weren't aware of. Celebrate our differences, celebrate empathy. I mean, Lord knows the world could use more empathy. And if people assume that women are naturally with that, it's an incorrect assumption, but it's something we should all strive
Right.
for. And I think hearing about your experiences is important, because that is in business roles, there is a lot of, what about your family at home, or where's your kid, or where's your
Right,
husband, and
right.
you never see the males. Have you run into that yourself, especially in your current position?
Yeah, yeah, actually, that actually reminds me of a lot of conversations I also have to deal with. And yeah, for example, I actually travel a lot. Now, during COVID, I think I was actually lucky just not staying home, not really traveling that much. But my
Mm-hmm.
job has been always, like a biz dev for, also for other markets. And I worked on a lot of, partnership deals for Asia. So I've been traveling back and forth between the US and Asia a lot, which has been really tough for me, but I just love traveling. That was good for me. But also there were a lot of things I had to handle on my personal side. But then actually something like this question comes in, like when I say, oh, actually I have a travel, to Korea for 2 weeks, and someone asked me like, oh, then how about your husband? I'm like, what about my husband? And he says, but then he has to stay all alone for 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, but he's an adult and he can take care of himself. And what's wrong with that? And of course, that person gets a little embarrassed, but just not still. But he gets not lonely. He has to make food for himself all the time. I'm like, that's what I do all the time. And I know my
Yeah.
husband is happy. Don't worry about my husband, but just know, for this example, I just wanted to point out that I think women kind of tend to get more reactions like this whenever they're really busy with their work. Other people also step in to worry about your family, because I think there is so strong perception of women being a caregiver to her family. But
Mm.
that's what I concern the most. So when I see other people talking about this, of course I'm like, yeah, but I'm already taking care of it, and this is not something you have to worry about. And I think I don't think actually those people actually just not have those comments and with a bad intention. That's more from very typical stereotype of men and women's
Conditioning.
role. And yeah, so
Yeah.
and as you said, I think the situations are changing. I think the society is changing. I think people's perceptions are changing, but still we still face these questions. And also I think these also become the pressure on your end. You also want to be a good daughter, good wife, and good mom. And I think all of this combined with other people's comments, questions, I think it really becomes a big pressure that really kind of hinders your success in both areas, personally and professionally. So I'm just kind of trying to be really positive about it again, like, hey, actually, let's just let's not have these like hinder your success. But yeah, actually, I'm taking a good care of these, and no one really can succeed in everything. So let's just not have some things fail at some time, but it really doesn't fail your life. So yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
Mhm.
It's a good distinction, and you said it
Mhm.
best. Let me worry about my husband. You worry about. I mean, they're partnerships. That's part of marriage. Is if you do decide to get married, I would hope you're married
Mhm.
to a person that would understand your goals and dreams and your
Oh yeah.
aspirations, and just like you should surround yourself with friends and colleagues like that too. It's important. I am curious, as we kind of wind this down, on the topic of connectivity and just drawing from your own experience. Right now gaming is in a space where it is in its prime time. It's bigger than this industry is bigger than movies, it's bigger than TV
Right.
industry. There's so much more interest, and there's more initiative of getting younger women
Mhm.
into the gaming development. Because when I was a kid, it was very much like I wanted to go to school for game design, and everyone, my counselors, everybody was like, "No, there's no
Mhm.
money in that. It's a guy
Mhm.
thing," and did it anyway. But and I just think that that's something that is not necessarily as prevalent as overtly, but still there's a lot of that social conditioning for some of the new women, or younger women that are looking to get in this industry, or anyone watching right now. Hi, anyone watching right now that's just looking for a little guidance. What kind of insight would you offer to them through their journey?
Mm. I think, as you said, yeah, I also see more women actually coming into this industry. I'm really glad to see those changes, and I hope there were, more and more opportunities for women or just all genders actually to be more successful in the video game industry. And as you said, I believe there are gonna be even more opportunities in the future in the video game industry. There are a lot of, synergies. Actually, game industry is also trying to create working with other industries like animation, TV dramas, and also just this is a big content industry altogether. So there are a lot of interesting things happening right now, and also it's related to technology devices. There are so many things actually now. Actually, we can do more than from 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And that's why I love video game industry. It's actually really the very fun entertainment and content business that is really thriving in the in this era. So I'm pretty sure there are going to be even more opportunities for women who really love to be in creative industry, whether they actually create something artistic or just games as a programmer or artist, or just they want to create a business opportunity just like myself. And probably just an advice I can give them is I just hope they love their job and love actually what they do. Just like I do, and just be proud of themselves and just be proud of their own traits and their own skill sets, their own strengths. Because as I said, there were, when I look back on my career path, there were times I was really not liking my trait, my strength, because I thought it was just associated with being a woman. I really didn't want to highlight the fact that I'm a woman, but I'm like, what's wrong with it? You're just being
Yeah.
yourself, and you're eligible for this industry and you have great skill sets, great traits that actually you can use to be successful. And just don't be shy about those. And Ashna, at some point I was really trying to behave differently because I didn't want to look like, I didn't like just looking like just young Asian woman. So at some point I was kind of trying to speak differently. I was behaving, a little differently. And then I just came back to ask myself, what am I trying to do here? I'm just JJ. I'm just being myself and I love myself. And I have a lot of skill sets. I love a lot of strengths I can use to be successful in this industry. So there are, other, comments that kind of distract you just to think about, oh, am I doing right? Am I really, a good fit to this industry? Just forget about those. It's fine. People have different perspectives, different opinions. Just thank them for their opinions, but you just move on and focus on your own career goal, your own, stuff you really want to do. So I really hope, women like yourself, myself, and all the women, or just all the, all the people actually listening to, our chat, actually love actually their job, love what they do, and just love themselves, and just being, trying to utilize whatever they have as their trait, as their passion, as their skill sets, strength is, so that they can just focus on thriving, not really letting things down. There might be just something so simple, but it's really hard. When you're in an entry level, when you're getting so many comments, critical comments or questions that you didn't want to hear. I think it's hard because it's kind of bothering you all the time, but just don't, think about those too much and just focus on, performing well, just doing what you love and just show, what you can do. I think that's it.
Develop those skills. What you're not born with, you can learn. This industry is big with tons of opportunities. There's not one way to be in this industry. And yeah, I think that's very important. And it is, you hit the nail on the head. It is a learning process of, we are growing up as young girls. We are told to be ashamed of certain things. We're taught we're weaker. We're taught we're supposed to be quieter, more compassionate. And I feel as we get older and we experience more of the world, we learn to unlearn some of that and become comfortable in our own skin. And I think women like you, people like you, are paramount to that, because you're letting your actions speak for themselves. You're letting your success speak for itself. You know who you are. You know your goals. You know your strengths. And I think that's admirable. And that's something we should all aspire to, is not to be anything other than we are, but to be the best versions of ourselves. And I'm really appreciative of organizing, not to keep pimping out the conference, but Women in Games is such a great community that I wish I had when I was younger, because it is as a place that not only, it's not meant to be this like, oh, let's all hide. No, it's celebrating success. It's learning the tools you need to succeed. It's just going out there and owning your space. And I love that. And I love seeing you own your space. And I'm really excited. I'm happy to see what you guys have in store with DokeV coming out, Crimson Desert. I'm so proud of you and proud to know you, and I really appreciate you coming out and speaking with me and speaking at Women in Games. This has just been phenomenal. I love learning from other people and hearing your experience, and I think it's really important. I hope everyone watching got something out of it as well. Unfortunately, as much as I want to talk forever and ever with you, because I love this, that is all the time we have today. I just want to thank you again, JJ, so much for joining me for this chat. Thank you all for coming to our session, and we hope that you stay tuned for the rest of the event kicking off tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. Go out there.
Thank you, Liana. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.